Today, we're diving into a really cool breakthrough in how AI handles, just massive amounts of information. It's a new system that basically teaches an AI not just to read, but to actually think about how it's reading. And this makes it way smarter and, believe it or not, a whole lot faster too.
So, have you ever thought about this? Why can't an AI just read a 1,000-page report and remember what was on page 10? I mean, it seems like something a computer should be great at, right? But for AI, this has been a massive roadblock. When it's chugging through a huge document, it just gets lost. It forgets the key stuff from the beginning by the time it gets to the end. So today, we're going to unpack the new system that's designed to fix exactly that problem.
So this whole issue has a name. Researchers actually call it the fidelity dilemma, and it really boils down to this. How can an AI possibly hang on to all those tiny, subtle details from, say, thousands of pages ago, while also trying to grasp the big picture? It's this constant tug-of-war between remembering the specifics and just getting the general summary. Just think about how you read a really dense book or report. You don't just read page 1, then page 2, all the way to the end in a straight line, right? No way. You skim, you jump back to a chapter you read earlier, you're constantly connecting ideas across hundreds of pages. Well, most AIs just can't do that. They read a chunk, they summarize it, and then they move on. And that original text, it's gone. Poof, the context is lost forever. And here's the real heart of the problem. To save memory, the AI has to compress chunks of text. But when it does that, it can accidentally throw away a detail that seems totally unimportant at the time, but then, turns out to be absolutely critical later on. And like the paper says, those subtle links between ideas just get erased.
Okay, so to really appreciate this new breakthrough, we first have to understand the old way of doing things. The previous best system was something called MemAgent. Think of it as a streaming assistant. It processes information one chunk at a time in a single pass. Super efficient, right? Well, yeah, but its method has a really serious flaw. So here's the process for MemAgent, basically. Step 1, read a chunk. Step 2, compress it into a short memory. Step 3, completely forget the original text. And step 4, move on. Read, compress, forget, repeat. You see the problem, right? It's that third step, forgetting. Once it's gone, there is absolutely no going back. And what that means is if the AI messes up, if it makes a bad summary and throws out a key piece of evidence, that information is just gone for good. It's a totally passive system. It has no way to go back and fix its own mistakes. It can't correct its own memory. And that right there brings us to the breakthrough, a new agent called InfMem. And listen, this isn't just a small improvement. It's a whole new way of doing things. InfMem is designed to act more like us, to have a deliberate, human-like style of thinking before it even looks at the next piece of text. So the researchers based InfMem on a really cool idea from cognitive science called System-2 thinking. The easiest way to think about it is this. System 1 is your gut reaction. It's fast, it's automatic. System 2, on the other hand, is your slow, deliberate, analytical brain, the one you use for solving a tough problem. InfMem basically gives that System 2 control to the AI's memory. And you can see that System 2 control right here in this diagram. See, unlike that old straight line process, InfMem uses this active loop. It's constantly checking its own memory, asking, what am I missing? And then it actively goes out and finds that missing piece before it updates its understanding. It's a game changer. This whole process follows what they call the PreThink-Retrieve-Write protocol. So first, before it even reads the next chunk, it stops to pre-think. It asks itself, okay, is the answer already in my memory? If not, what am I missing? Then it moves to retrieve. It actually jumps anywhere it needs to in the document to find that missing piece. And only then does it write, intelligently combining what it already knew with the new evidence. It can jump around, just like we do. Okay, so the big question is, does all this fancy thinking actually work in practice? Well, the researchers put InfMem head-to-head against the old methods, and they tested it on some insanely long documents. We're talking up to 1 million tokens. A token is just a small piece of text like a word or part of a word. And the results? They are pretty staggering. First, let's talk about accuracy. On one of the models they tested, InfMem boosted accuracy by an average of over 10%. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but trust me, in the world of AI benchmarks, a 10-point jump is absolutely massive. It just means it's getting the right answer way, way more often. And here's a great visual for that. On a huge 1 million token document, that's like a 1,500-page book. The old system, MemAgent, was getting it right about 52% of the time. Kind of like flipping a coin. But like at InfMem, with its new thinking protocol, it jumped to over 60% accuracy. It is just so much better at connecting the dots when it's buried in information.
But here's the really wild part. Being smarter is only half the story. You'd think all this extra thinking would slow it down, right? Well, it's also about being way more efficient.
And this is all thanks to a really clever feature they call early stopping. Because InfMem is constantly checking in with itself, asking, hey, do I have enough info to answer the question yet? It can make a super important decision. It can decide to just stop reading. The second it's confident it has the answer, it's done. It just ends the process. And the result of that? InfMem is on average almost 4 times faster. 4. It stops wasting time and energy reading hundreds of pages it doesn't even need. It finds the answer, and it stops. It is the definition of working smarter, not harder. Okay, so we've got these impressive numbers, but why should you or I care? Well, it's because an AI that can actually read and remember this well could completely change the game in any field that is just drowning in data. I mean, just picture it. A lawyer could have an AI instantly scan thousands of case files to find that one tiny, obscure precedent that wins the case. Or a scientist could have it synthesize findings from decades of research papers in just minutes, not years. This tech is basically unlocking the ability to reason over these huge, complex mountains of knowledge in a way we've just never been able to do before. And really, as the authors put it, we're kind of moving beyond just trying to give AI a bigger and bigger memory. That's not the main bottleneck anymore. The new frontier is what they call cognitive control, teaching the AI how to intelligently manage its own memory, to know what it knows, and maybe even more importantly, to know what it doesn't know so it can go find it.
And that really leaves us with a pretty wild thought, doesn't it? We've just looked at a system that can read something longer than War and Peace and remember it better and faster than any human ever could. So as this cognitive control gets even more powerful, what's next? What kind of challenges are we going to be able to solve? What new questions are we even going to be able to ask?